To item number 10, Peace National Wild and Scenic Rivers Designation Update. Jamie.
Okay. There has been.
Well, and I'll let everyone read the slide as far as history.
It's a different recommendation.
Oh, it's okay.
So
this is an update on this topic, which again, we heard a year ago. At that time, the CHNEP Management Committee voted to recommend that the Policy Committee support the partnership Wild and Scenic Rivers designation of the Peace River for the purposes of conducting a study of the Peace River. And I would note that at that time, Swift Mud, is that right? Voted no, and the city of Northport Fish and Wildlife and the South Florida Water Management District abstained, and the connection to the CCMP is multiple water quality improvement, hydrologic restoration, and fish, wildlife, and habitat protection actions, including the most notably Action 1, promoting best management practices for tidal creeks and rivers. So the recommendation, we're not making a new recommendation today.
No.
This is just an update on this particular aspect of it, which was a little more controversial last time.
Again, here is the differences between the two models. I wanted to just preface this slide, though, in regards to the difference between the Peace and the MIACA. This only works, the partnership, when we are invited in. And we'll talk about what happens during a study, and that will be in the next slide. But community advocacy is what it's all about. If the community wants to protect the peace, they are the drivers, not the Park Service. We are here we are public servants, like every one of you. We do what the community wills us to proceed to do. So I wanted to preface that because that's super, super important. If there's not a driver, an advocate, knocking on the legislator's door, it doesn't happen. So I just wanted to preface that. We are there to just serve the public will. Okay, so again, the two different models, you've already learned about that. There would be only one choice for the Peace if it ever in the future were to go forward, which would be a partnership. Okay. During a study phase of designation, first of all, the study itself has to be congressionally authorized. So that's a huge hurdle all in itself. It took years for the Little Manatee River to even get to a study phase. Vern Buchanan worked on that for a while and trying to get that bill passed. It now is in study phase in Hillsborough County because of years of work just to get it to the study phase. Now it's moving along pretty well in Hillsborough County because the community wants it. The National Park Service is working on identifying those outstandingly remarkable values right now, doing field data analysis, part of the study. They will look at two different things. Eligibility, is it free flowing? And does it possess at least one outstandingly remarkable value? Second is suitability. That is huge. Suitability means the will of the community. Is there advocacy for it? Are all the players on board? And what should be designated? How many miles of that river system should be designated? Are there parts that we should leave out? Super important. It might not be right. There might be projects involved at that point in a certain section of the miles of river, or it might just not meet the national standard of a wild and scenic river. Or there might be private property owners that say, not in this section. So that is part of all of the study process. you can leave out miles. You can do a small, tiny bit in your study and then come back years later when the time is more appropriate and right, and add to segments of the miles. So that all happens during a study process. And then it has to go back to Congress after the study is complete. So. All right, did I?
I think you're telling me that I'm just too old to even start this whole thing.
It takes a while, and less than 1% of all rivers in the whole entire nation are protected under this act.
I was kidding.
So that's not great. That's why this program, it's becoming more and more popular because communities realize that they need to protect their rivers and that this might be a solid way where you have consensus and everyone's at the table together, but it's not a hard regulatory approach. So, there have not been many updates. Viviana, you and I and the Water Management District, we have spoken about this. Water Management District has water resource projects in the works that they are very concerned about. And so they let me know of those concerns. We have not done an outward advocacy approach for the piece. We did speak at the Paints Creek Historic State Park in Bowling Green about the Partnership Along the Scenic Rivers program because we were invited. And that's where we're at.
Any questions?
A couple. One, a statement, when this was brought to the committee, the last time it was combined. And so any actions taken were combined. So if there was an issue with one, then we couldn't support the other, which is why we had that discussion afterwards with Jamie that SWCMA did anyway. And so it's good to see them apart because I think they're really in different phases. And so it's nice to be able to discuss them differently. So the concern with the Peace River is that there are water supply projects planned and a minimum flows and levels reevaluation ongoing. And as we saw earlier, the definition is free flowing. And so that does bring some concern about how that's going to impact those needed projects in an area that's already identified as not being able to meet the potable water demand within 20 years, less than 20 years. So that was part of the concern of not understanding how this designation is going to impact any of those projects that are already under discussion, I would say. So I think that's part of where we're at, the SWCMA is at with trying to understand that. I don't think we got a formal response on that specifically. It was more, we'll kind of work through the process and we'll see where it goes, which is a bit of an uncomfortable position when we're required to make sure that the public has potable water supplies. So that was the discussion. I did have a question. Jamie, you mentioned about that the public must advocate for these. What is the driving force? Is there a public entity or some member that said, hey, come in and let's look at the piece? Can you talk about the process of how we even got to this point?
Oh, the piece. How did we?
And if you need to follow up, that's fine.
I think it was each of the state parks have a CSO, a citizen support organization, and I can go back through my notes, but we received an inquiry to make a presentation. And I think that's how it started. I know that the organization, RTCA, River Strokeland Conservation Assistance Program, is working with several communities related to the piece, but nothing to do with Partnership Along the Scenic River. Just there was some interest in the RTCA assistance, which is free technical assistance to those communities. So, just basically that. There was not a driver on that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just one. long ago, I worked, my company worked with the FDEP on the Conservation 2020 program. Myakka River was a big part of that, Page Creek was another part of that. Drivers.
And
Could the state of Florida be the driver for this whole thing? I mean, could that facilitate some of that by using some of the states, at least their influence and their resources, trying to drive some of
oh,
this?
yeah, definitely, definitely. It's the will of the communities that want to see, their rivers further protected. Plus, it's just bringing in additional federal resources, to augment. I know 200,000 is not a whole lot. But when you start going after some grants, 150 plus, and we've utilized those funds in the Wekiva to hire a full-time river ambassador, that's now the public education outreach coordinator for the river. We have some YouTube video where a guy is running through the wilderness, the wild section of the Wekiva, Blackwater Creek, in this makeshift brand new power boat in a designated reach where there's no power boats even allowed. So now we're gonna get additional funds to put more law enforcement out there. So there are things that are happening where there are gaps, even though all of these people are at the table, there can never be enough. There can never be enough.
Good way to kind of wrap it up,
Yeah.
I think, because this is certainly an item of ongoing interest. So thank you very much for the update. Appreciate it.